let them come in. And you're all very welcome to another session from the think tank. This is the first one that we're late starting. We apologize. We had a few tech issues, but I'm delighted to bring you the wonderful wedding team now. And I'm going to head straight over to Dan and the team, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye for now.
Perfect. Thank you, Ronan, for getting us started. And again, apologize to everyone for kind of the late start here. Right off the bat, I just want to go ahead and everyone, if you could take turns, introduce yourself and kind of where you're from, one, because I know there's not all of us from kind of the local area here. So where you're from and kind of what you do with weddings. So take it away. Let's go Jeff first. You're on my top.
Okay, so I'm Jeff Brown. I'm now a photographer's mentor. So I work with photographers in about 20 different countries worldwide. But my background is I was a Royal Navy photographer, left in 2004 to set up my own wedding photography business. And I've consequently sent probably about 750 weddings I've photographed now to date. I've only got about 6 or 7 left to do. Retired last year, but then ended up coming out of retirement to do a few more this year.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. Brian, how about you?
Hi, everybody. My name's Brian Muir. I run my business Air Image Photography in southwest Scotland in a place called Prestwick. Been a full-time photographer now for 14 years. As well as weddings, I also do things like events where you shoot and print on site, likes of school proms, fashion, family portraiture, that type of thing. So weddings, obviously, at the moment for this time of year. So good to meet everybody. Good to see you here.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. Donald, let's go to you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Facebook. My name is Donal Doherty. I'm a wedding photographer based in Derry in Northern Ireland. And I was a marketing consultant before I became a photographer. So spent the last decade photographing weddings. And I also have a photo booth business as well. So probably something similar to what Brian is doing. And I do some training, but not shooting too many weddings now each weekend, as probably a lot of us aren't.
Yes, I'm sure that's kind of across the board right now for shooting at least. So Mary, I've got you next.
Hey, hi guys. Yeah, thanks. I'm Mary Fist-Taylor. I'm in the States here in Richmond, Virginia. We've had Jamie Hayes and I have had a portrait and wedding studio for right at 26 years. Have progressively flipped our business from, being predominantly weddings and less portraits to the complete opposite. So we only do about 12 to 15 weddings a year. No weddings right now, but 12 to 15 on an average year. And still love it. And here where we are in the Southeast, not only the wedding market's strong, but bridal portraits and engagement portraits are a really big part of what we do. So actually booked 2 weddings last week. So brides are definitely out there booking. So that's been exciting.
Yes, definitely. Looks like we lost Nancy for a minute. So we'll pick her up when I see her pop up again. I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Dan Phillips. I'm located here in Iowa. Been a wedding photographer for 13 years now. Actually slowly getting out of weddings myself because I've got 2 little kids that I'm wanting to spend some more time with. However, I've picked up a job. I'm currently managing a nonprofit event venue. So I kind of have the wedding aspect on that side. Just thankfully do not work it on the weekends. I have a full staff that does that for me. So that's why you see the lovely mess that is right behind me. Our event venue has become a community meal location and kind of a emergency food pantry currently. So, but yeah, that right now is everybody that we've got on the panel. Again, we have Nancy that may pop in here again here soon. Let's go ahead and kind of jump in here. One of the questions that I've had, and if there's anyone watching that has any questions that you'd like to ask, just definitely post that. We're kind of keeping an eye on it and we'll get to them as we can. But some of the questions that have come up to me beforehand, first one is, are any of you doing anything right now for different sources of revenue? What are you kind of doing to help kind of keep that cash flow come in, if anything at all right now? Mary, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to call. So
yep.
Well, because our studio is diversified and portraits are a big part of what we do, which we can't do right now either, by the way. We've really been pushing our gallery wall concierge service, which is curating people's own images, pictures, those files, whatever, scanning, organizing, and creating, wall installations virtually with them, back and forth, emails, Zoom calls, what have you, and creating those installations and getting them, because labs are reopened, frame companies are reopened, getting those printed, and we'll install them when we're back up and running. But it's been a really great source of income for us for the past 2 weeks. I started promoting it just with blog posts and social media, some email drip campaign stuff. So that has been really great. We've done this for a long time, but it's something I just kind of pushed to the side and really started pushing it again a couple of weeks ago, like I said. And I think we've got six installations working right now. So it's been really great.
Okay, I think I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. So that's what we've been doing, Dan.
Sorry, just realized that I was muting myself. Hi, Jamie. How's it going?
Good, except for I guess this meeting number and passcode have all been changed. I've been trying every one in the book, and it says it's invalid.
It's okay. We're live, so we're good.
That's
It's
all
all live
We're
now.
good.
Yeah.
Yep. Good to have you joining us. So
Thank you.
we had gone through some intros and just did our first little question, but if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for some of those that may not know you, Jamie.
Sure, I'm Jamie Hayes. I'm business partners with Mary Taylor. Been a wedding photographer 37 years-ish. Picked up my first camera when I was 15. Photographed my first wedding before I could drive a car. Still shooting today.
Awesome. Perfect. So the question that I raised was if there's some different sources of revenue. I know Mary kind of talked a little bit on hers. Is there anyone else that has something that you're kind of working with right now to kind of bring in some funds?
There's an aspect of, and we're possibly going to get to it later, but as weddings are rather than being cancelled, being rescheduled, keep talking with your clients, is because a number of them are willing to, if you like, keep either booking fees or pre-wedding payments, depending on how you operate that, still coming in at their original times, because they realize that as small businesses, we won't have a lot of income happening at the moment. So I've had a number of clients who have said, we realize that although we've rescheduled, our original date or original pre-wedding payments have been due round about now, we're happy to keep on paying them. So, but I think that comes with being close with your clients and communication with your clients, that you're in a position of trust with them, and you're going to act in a professional manner. So therefore, they are sometimes offering, if you feel that you need to ask, then ask. They can only say no.
Sure. Yeah, I'm definitely sure that applies with quite a few, because I know a lot of brides have that money kind of set aside and reserved ahead of time. So I could definitely see that being something that some are, not necessarily as hesitant to be able to oblige you with. So anyone else have some ideas or?
So for me, I've been actually I've been like delivering online courses for years anyway, but so it was a fairly easy transition to kind of ramp up the kind of online education. But I've seen a lot of other people doing like introduction to photography or photography classes as well online. So I would suggest to people that they maybe look at their skill set and think about what they could potentially bundle into an online course if they do have time during this time. Facebook ads are pretty cheap now, and everybody's online. So it's probably a good time to start, selling their expertise. And I've had pretty good success with that. I think the first sort of week or two, I was kind of not really sure how I felt about marketing during this time, because I think you got to be very careful, I think. And now I think if you approach it in the right way, I think it's fine. But I don't know how you guys felt about that, whether or not there was uncertainty when this was kind of unfolding about how to kind of push yourself whenever this was happening. Because I have seen a couple of people become a cropper of that as well, by the way, mentioning nothing, but I've seen a couple of situations where people have just basically made a bit of a misstep, and people haven't been very happy about it.
For my personal view, I think if it's still okay to market yourself, but more market yourself as a source of like help and inspiration, and really reaching out to people, but try not to mention anything about reaching out to people saying in this current situation, but don't use the COVID thing as a selling tool or anything. And I think I know 3 different options that some of the clients I work with are doing. So I've got quite a few guys on board my program who are doing photo retouching. So like scanning in old, restoring photographs, so scanning in old negatives, slides, stuff like that, restoring them for people and printing them out. I've got another few guys who are doing actually the editing side of things, so outsourcing themselves as like a Photoshop editor. So that gives a little bit of extra money coming in as well. And then also there's other things that you can do. I suppose you can do product photography, and I know quite a few photographers who are doing product photography where the image of the products are being delivered to the studio, or depending on where you are in the world, you can do that on-site shoot as long as that social distancing aspect is still considered.
Yeah, definitely. I know here at the studio, we've been doing some different retouching, more the restoration side and everything. I had actually gotten, just before this all started, 2 clients send me some pretty large restoration orders and everything. So I plan to kind of push that a little bit once I get these 2 done, and kind of work on that angle of it. Otherwise, we've not really been promoting much on the business side, and more just kind of trying to see how we can help out and where we can help out in our community. So, if no one else has anything to touch on that, I don't see any other questions just yet, but I know the biggest question that I see asked, and the biggest question that has been asked of me, is how people are handling the rescheduling and or the cancellations that are coming up with brides, both upcoming, very urgent upcoming brides, either this month or next month, and even some of the brides that are reaching out for later in the year that are unsure of what's going to be happening. So if anyone wants to kind of touch on that, on what you're doing in your specific area, I know we've got a wide variety of people right now in different locations, so it will be kind of interesting to see just what's going on for everyone. So,
on the basis of the UK, and I mean, I personally, as I said, I've only got 7 weddings for this year because I'm sort of like retiring from that and sticking with the marketing side of things. But I know quite a lot of my clients are getting their weddings rescheduled for 2021. I think it's that uncertainty, especially within the UK, because there was just an article put on the news today about the like pubs and restaurants. And that would probably reach out to like wedding venues and stuff and not be opening again until Christmas. So it's that big uncertainty is you can't reschedule anybody's date physically until we know where we're going with when things are going to come back to normal,
Sure, yeah. Definitely.
I mean, my thoughts around this, like, first of all, I have had loads and loads of reschedule weddings, and then a couple of cancellations. So I'm shooting around 50 weddings a year, and then we have 30 photo booths. So quite a lot of different events that people are having to move around dates. One of the things that I would say to everybody, if they haven't done it already, is to be proactive, to reach out to your brides. Don't wait for them to get in touch with you, because they're going to be worrying about this. And so one of the things that I've been doing is, today I contacted August brides, because I had somebody contact me from August to say they were basically rescheduling. I actually had a September one reschedule. So I've tried to be as proactive as possible. So one of the things that you can do is put your dates into some sort of a Google Cal or into Dropbox. And then at least you can share the dates with them, because I've had a couple of people come back and say, hey, look, we went and rebooked the wedding. It's on this date. And then, so one of the things I've really tried to stress with them is to say, look, make sure to involve me with this process. Make sure to reach out with me when you're looking at dates, because I want to be able to find a date that I'm going to be able to accommodate you, and I'm happy to move the balance across for you. But obviously, if you book another date, you know, the booking fee is non-refundable. So you're going to kind of lose, we're both basically going to lose out. So, and then I've also suggested to those brides that they consider, you know, midweek wedding dates, you know, Sunday, Mondays. I think that's, you know, a good option. I think if they're all looking for Saturday dates, and for some reason my April has just filled up so much. Everybody thinks that, I guess, like April's the, you know, next Sunday month that's coming, in, you know, next year. So it's really, really filled up. So share the wedding calendar. I've shared some content with my brides as well, just to kind of constantly kind of update them and make sure that they know that I'm on their side and that I'm trying to help them with things. And I have a private Facebook group that I actually have all my brides in the group. And so that's been quite good. So being able to go on lives in there and just, you know, constantly sympathize with them and say, look, I totally know this is awful for you. And just try to let them know that, you know, I want to work with them to be able to find an alternative date, and just say to them, look, I've been really looking forward to photographing your wedding, and I'd love to be part of it. But on the other side of that, if people are cancelling, don't be bullied. You know, I've had a few people reach out to me today who are being absolutely bullied by people. Somebody today said that the bride was saying they were going to plaster their name everywhere on social media if they didn't give them the deposit back. And I think if you're proactive, you can avoid a lot of that stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Donald's exactly right. And I love that, you know, being proactive. I think all of us, hopefully we've all done that already, but a few things that, you know, we've been doing. So I personally, and being in business for 26 years, and with the fact that everybody does have a megaphone, meaning everybody can hop on social media and say and do whatever they want, that anybody that really came at us, we had decided early on, if anybody came at us and said, I want my money back, then, and we couldn't reposition or reschedule them, we would just give them their retainer back. Because even though we have a contract and we have all these things, we have a retainer, we have all the legalese, we've never been through this before, and they're scared, and it just felt like the right thing to do. Now, that's just how we personally chose to deal with it, and didn't have to, which has been a great thing. But a few ideas is, we immediately partnered with other like-minded wedding vendors in our area, and started doing things like #wedding Wednesdays in RVA, which is Richmond, Virginia, where we are, talking about booking other days of the week and offering complimentary moving the date cards. So if you do save the dates, we are giving them, we're pulling something from their engagement or something from them that we're moving those dates and offering to help them get those out, and also sending a little gift to them. So like if their wedding is supposed to be this Saturday, we're just sending a little something like, thinking about you, you know, pop the bubbly and enjoy your day. We'll be doing this again, you know, in a few months or next year or whatever. So just reaching out in that proactiveness and that community partnering with other people, because we only have so many Saturdays in every year that we want to fill with our events and our weddings. And, you know, some of us reserve some for portrait sessions as well. So we're really pushing those days of the week and Fridays and things like that. And it's actually caught on pretty well. Wedding Wednesdays become a big thing in our little neck of the woods. So that's been positive for the venues, the planners, the florists, the bakers. Everybody has really jumped on that bandwagon. So we immediately just came together and said, how can we make this better? And these are some of the things we've come up with. And we're doing the redate cards for no charge to our brides as just a little thank you for sticking with us.
Definitely. I know one of the things I wanted to touch on, being that I'm in a kind of a unique situation of managing a venue as well, is we love the idea as a venue of doing weddings on additional dates, more so additional dates than just a Friday or a Sunday, because doing multiple weddings back to back for us, especially in this time, creates a lot of headache with making sure things are properly cleaned and sanitized in between each event. So I particularly love that Wedding Wednesday idea, Mary. I might actually try and see if that'll catch on a bit here, because that gives us a good multiple day buffer to kind of work with that. And our staff can much more handle weddings that are 2 or 3 days in between, and we can restock our bar a lot faster that way as
Unlike you, Dan, we're too old to do back-to-back weddings, so I can't do Saturday and Sunday. I need a few days in between just to recover these days. So you're like, yeah, but you're right, that recovery time. So that's what we talked about, and that's a great point.
Yep, exactly. Because those are, I mean, that's kind of hitting the nail on the head right there. Being able to speak from that wedding venue side. Also wanted to kind of mention that on the venue side as well, as a photographer and as a different vendor, reach out to your venues to make sure that you're kind of top of mind as they're working with different brides and rescheduling, because you may have 12 weddings that you're working with in a given year, or 20 weddings, whereas us as a venue, I have probably 45 this year, and we're a small town nonprofit venue, and that's how many weddings that I'm trying to work with and reschedule and everything. So it's a little more complicated on our end when we're trying to do that as one person. So when I've had one vendor actually in the last month that has reached out to me to see if they could help or to see if they could work with us in some way. And that was a little disheartening, honestly. So, because I've kind of tried to reach out to some different vendors on my end as a photographer and as the venue, and it was just, so one thing that I would recommend is just kind of reach out to your other vendors that you work with regularly, offer to see how you can help them, if there's any advice you can give, if there's any way that you can help pick up some slack if they need it or anything. So, but yeah, definitely. So Wedding Wednesday, I'm definitely adding that to my notes right here. So
yeah, so I've done exactly the same thing. I've reached out to all the wedding coordinators who I normally work with, and I just sent them a little note to say, hey, I hope you're okay. You know, I hope your family is well, and, you know, just checking in almost like on a personal level. And I've said to those people, I said, hey, you know, when things like go back to normal, you guys are going to want to do marketing. I'm happy to come and shoot the venue for free. You know, let's collaborate in something. I'll just give up my time, and I just want to help you out, really. And I think that's going to, you know, stand me in good stead. One of the things I was going to say there, whenever people get in touch with you, actually, I've noticed that some brides will come back and say, hey, the venue has given us this date. And so I've noticed some venues here, they're maybe just giving people one option. So I think it's important as well for people to go back and tell them to go back to the venue and say, look, I need several options. I need to go back, you know, to my, you know, suppliers to make sure we can get everybody on board. And okay. And what just you were chatting actually before, Brian, about moving the balance. How we've went about that is I've asked people for 50% of the balance on their original due date, and then 50% at the original date. And I've just sort of said to people, look, because a lot of people here, like a lot of people have lost their jobs, and if they are financing their wedding in that way, you know, I don't want to necessarily put people under pressure, you know, if they feel they're not going to be able to afford it. So I've just kind of said, look, and only if you can afford this, I'd really appreciate if it's possible to do that. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. Everybody's going to have a different way to approach that, but I'd be interested to hear how you guys have phrased that, or how you've kind of asked for that balance, if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, fairly early on in the process, when we made our initial statement of how we as a company were reacting to the situation, it was very much a continuous message of reassurance to our clients that we're there for them. We're not, you know, we're not grabbing, we're not in this to make a quick buck or anything like that. We're there for them. So it was made very clear that where we can work with our clients and our venues and all of the wedding community to do reschedules, then, you know, there'll be no penalty for rescheduling. But on the subject of rescheduling, it's quite interesting is that I have already had another couple of local photographers say, our brides have rescheduled, we can't do the date. Are you able to help us out? We'd love to refer you. Are you free on this date? So maintaining a community of not only your clients, your venues, but your peers within the industry, your other photographers, is highly important, because you may be able to help them out, and indeed they may be able to help you out, and you'd rather keep it amongst people who you consider to be high quality professional companies, etc., so that if you send a bride their direction, they're not going to be let down. Well, Brian Muir sent me to this guy and he was awful, or whatever. I think maintain community with your clients, community with your venues, but also with your peers within the industry.
definitely. I know that's one thing that I'm kind of looking at since as I mentioned, I've slowly started getting out of weddings just so that I'm home more on weekends, which part of that is because my wife is in healthcare and working 9 to 5 regularly, some pretty stressful hours. So I want to help out with the kids even more now. However, I fully realize that there's going to be a lot of brides that need help, and some photographers are going to have to cancel. So I'm kind of, since I have some weekends available and everything, I'm willing to kind of help out those that are in our community photographer wise to help cover some weddings for them. And even offering that if they need me to shoot it almost as like an associate type of thing, that I can shoot it and then pass those images on to the original photographer to fulfill the rest of that need for them. So, because I think a lot of what's been going on in the country has been some of the stronger together type themes. And I think that's really how we can all kind of benefit and get through this together. So definitely.
Yeah, we actually are working on a promotion too, that we're going to offer some pop-up weddings. So for all of these brides that aren't able to rebook their dates with the same photographer, we're working on some special marketing things so that brides have an alternative where they can actually get wedding photography done. If the wedding gets downsized, they need to shift to something else.
Yeah, because we're in Virginia, so we have military, so we have people that are being deployed, and we have different things. Their families, they're gonna have a baby, so there are reasons they're going to be having these smaller pop-up kind of weddings. So and the photographer either doesn't do that type of thing, but we have an associate photographer, so we can offer that option midweek or something smaller, and probably be more portrait centric for us. We'll offer portrait albums and more portrait sales from it, because that's kind of what we love to do anyway. So we've had a few already reach out that that's the option they're going to go with, because they're not going to do the big event now. They've just they're not rescheduling that large party. Maybe they will in a year or so, but not right now for just as logistical reasons mostly.
Yeah,
going
definitely.
back to 2000, 2008, after the crash in 2008, we were going into 2008 with about 90 weddings then, and then we noticed that coming forward from after the crash, people were a lot more price sensitive. So what we did, as opposed to devalue the brand by doing cut price weddings or anything like that, we said you still get the same premium service, but with a reduced package. So we created a package that was still the same premium service by the Russian brand photography, but it was a reduced coverage package. So we called it like the wedding essential package. So there was no turn up at the bride's house on the morning. It was basically the service itself, the group photographs afterwards, some shots of the bride and groom, and then they would go for the food. And then when they went for the food, we would go home. We used to do 2 photographers on our main package. This was just 1 photographer. So either myself or one of the staff or my business partner would go and do that. It was literally about 3.5 hours with a USB. Well, actually, it wasn't a USB then. It was a CD.
A CD, yeah, I remember those days.
And we got a real big take up on that, and really pushed it for midweek weddings as well, because and said like sort of like hotel type venues, because we couldn't offer that service to a church wedding, because a church wedding would take too long, by the time we went to the church and then you went to the other bit. So we got a lot of weekday work from that, which, yes, it wasn't the same amount of turnover come in, but it was actually very highly profitable, because it was only taking up 1 person's time, 3.5 hours, less images to edit as well, and then the images applied on a CD. So that worked really well for us, and that got us into. And when we went forward into 2009, the market was completely different. Some of the big competitors we were up against in 2008 weren't there anymore. So 2009 was actually one of our strongest years ever.
Yeah, I know one of the weddings that we have coming up here, they're actually in May. They're wanting to keep their original ceremony date as their legal ceremony, and then continue with that kind of full party later on. So what I chose to do is that any of our couples that want to do that, we'll still photograph that smaller ceremony for them and everything. And then when that full event comes on, take care of it there. Because I know right now in Iowa, particularly in our region, because Iowa right now is not in a full lockdown or shutdown order, but our region of Iowa is on a more stronger lockdown, I guess you could say. But we're restricted to events of less than 10 people right now. but weddings are exempt from the no contact order, so we are able to do a wedding as long as it's less than 10 people. So that's kind of still happening, and we're still doing that fall little intimate ceremony for them. So
are you guys, sorry, I was just gonna say, are you guys issuing a new contract then whenever people move their date? Because I've had
We
some
are.
people request contracts, and I was kind of wondering myself where that kind of stands, but whether or not the original one would cover, the
No.
date move.
It depends on your state, country, whatever. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, we have to sign off on, we have to null and void the existing and create a brand new full contract. I don't think and anticipate that it would ever be an issue, but that's from the advice of our attorney. So I'm not an attorney, but that's how we would have to do that here in Virginia. So we have to null and void and both sign off on that on the existing, then create a brand new one.
In the UK, obviously here, we're still kind of in a lockdown process, and weddings are not going ahead at the moment. I'm quite in a unique position as a photographer as well, but also my daughter is getting married this year in early August, and we still don't know. We have no idea, and again, it's keeping contact with all those people, because we're kind of in the dark a little bit until we're given more guidelines from the government, from the scientists, etc. I do believe that when lockdown releases, it will release in stages. So therefore, sorry, Dan, I think you said, was it gatherings of up to 20 or something like that? Was it?
Up to 10 currently.
Up to 10. So we're not there yet, but I believe that's when lockdown starts to release. It will release, so you can then look at small weddings, small gatherings, that kind of thing. An idea was, and I can't claim originality on this. A good friend of mine gave me this one. You know who you are, Kev. But when somebody's original, if they have rescheduled, when somebody's original wedding date comes up, if you're legally able, why not arrange a shoot with them, with just the two of them? So somehow mark the day that would have been their wedding. Get your suit on, your kilt on, whatever. Wedding dress, no, but why don't you dress up, and we'll do a pre-wedding shoot or an engagement shoot or whatever you want to call it, but small number. But obviously that depends on the legality and the recommendations of your government and scientists.
Yeah, definitely. I know, again, on the kind of the venue side, we're definitely preparing for the future of this year, at least, for a slow reopen, and looking at the possibility of us being able to have, maybe even as soon as May, optimistically, looking at the possibility of 50 people and then moving it up to 100 people and then slowly reopening to unrestricted. Unfortunately for us on the venue side, that has a lot of negative consequences for us, because if you think about it with photography, your price really doesn't matter based on how many people are at the event. When it comes to some of your catering vendors and some of your venues, especially those with bars like what we have, that's the bulk of our income right there for our venue, is that bar sales. So when we have weddings that are now restricted to 50 people, as opposed to previously they would be 300 or 200 type of thing, that's a huge hit. So that's why I kind of wanted to touch on that, check in with some of your vendors as well, and see how you can help out. So yeah, I'm definitely hopeful and everything, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at for later on in the year, is that hopefulness of some smaller events and everything. And our brides are, as of right now, they're very hopeful as well, and they're also how do I want to put it? They're understanding, I guess you could say, about that slow reopen and how it might look for their weddings and everything. And some of them are already starting to take a proactive approach to that, on seeing just how they would scale back their invite list and everything to accommodate for those restrictions. So
I know that one of the things that they talked about, there's been so much different things said about this, but I think at one point they talked about the fact that people were going to have to wear masks whenever they came out of lockdown. I know they're doing that in certain countries. And obviously that would be the oddest thing, to be photographing a wedding with the guests all en masse. It'd be hard to get the expressions. We'd miss a couple of resting bitch faces, mind you. We would miss a couple of those. But, it'd be very an odd situation, I imagine, to be in if that happens.
I have seen companies out there who are producing very decorative bridal masks, almost as part of the veil.
Yeah, cutting the cake and throwing the garter and bouquet, if they have those events, will totally have to be in a COVID-approved manner.
Well, hopefully we'll all come out of this and go back to some sort of normal. But, Dan, I think something that and everybody's touched on, like going together with other vendors, like-minded vendors. And Brian, I don't know if it was you or Donald, like you said about being able to still do photography. I mean, one of the first things we did was reach out to our favorite reception or reception venues or places and say, hey, we're free, y'all are empty, and maybe have the florist drop off and set up a shoot so we can at least photograph their spaces and the architecture and things like that, because we can still be taking great images. And the great news for those of us, especially if you're in a position where you're building a wedding business, getting in there and doing that photography and creating collateral for like-minded, other wedding vendors is such a great way to cement yourself in that industry. And, you'll be the one that they call on when they have their next consultation or bride. And for example, the 2 weddings we booked last week are from a venue that the first thing Jamie did was go out and do some stylized shoots for them. Now we don't have a bride and groom in them, but just showing their spaces in their rooms, the dressing rooms, that type of thing. So that was really a good move for us, and it gave us some really great images to post. So
yeah, I would agree, Mary. I think I actually mentioned it on maybe one of the other webinars that we were on together. Is that when lockdown releases, our clients, I'm going from the commercial clients, the vendors, etc., the venues, they are going to need an exit plan as well. And if you are the one who is there saying, can I help you with your marketing, provide you with some images on your wedding space or details about the hotel or whatever you want to do, if there's some way that we can provide a service to help you come out of lockdown, come out of this difficult situation, then call on us. You want to be number one on their list, that they're gonna contact you. And then when things do return to normal, being at the top of that list is a pretty good place to be if they are looking to recommend brides and grooms or whoever. So work with your venues, your wedding venues that you regularly go to, that you have already a relationship, and strengthen that relationship 100% by now, saying we're here for you, rather than saying what you're going to do for us. Make yourselves the service provider.
Definitely, and I think one of the big things that I've been recommending a lot of my clients to do, and something that I used to get a huge amount of weddings with a year, probably about 30 to 40 wedding bookings a year would come through bridal shops, because the route is normally with the bride, she'll go to the venue first, she'll book the venue, then she'll either go to the photographer or she'll go to the bridal shop. So if you can look at getting a strategic partnership with a bridal shop, but a bridal shop that's within your sort of price category. So if you're a high-end photographer, team up with a high-end bridal shop, because it means that the people who go there are already pre-qualified to afford your services, so to speak. And you could be approaching bridal shops now and saying, we can come in and do some photography, some catalog photography of your dresses, stuff that you can get onto Facebook, and then approach them with regards to like a joint venture program. And with what we did is we had like a special voucher scheme where the vouchers were kept under the counter. When somebody bought a dress, they were given this special voucher to use against our services. But the bride, the girl in the bridal shop would write her name on. And every month I would go down and I would pay them in cash. And these young girls would get £100 recommendation. And, sometimes that was more than they earned in a whole week. So to get 30, 40 weddings a year from that joint venture, that was fantastic. So now is the time to reach out, because a lot of people are, we're all in the same predicament. So people are, there's probably not going to be any other photographers reaching out to these people who maybe you never had a chance to get in with. So now is your chance to try and get in there with them.
And kind of like another kind of idea like around that as well is like, now's a good time to a good time to tap into like all this content that we've shot for ages, and you maybe never had time to curate this into like good like blog posts or content. And like you can put together slideshows, you can maybe interview the person from that bridal shop or from the venue. I actually have on my blog like the ultimate guide to getting married at the Red Castle Hotel, for example, and I've interviewed the wedding coordinator and I've shown pictures for them all the places to shoot at the venue. So like day to day, a lot of us are busy, and some of these things never get done. So now if people do have time and if you can't be out there shooting, like just tap into that content, because there's so much. I'm sure all of us have like so many images and things that we could be sharing with people.
Definitely. Another thing that I'll kind of touch on too, I don't know how many of you are actively booking new brides right now, but again, being able to talk on the venue side, we're booking quite a few new brides for next year and also for 2022 right now. Some of these are brides that are using their quarantine time to now plan their wedding and get some of that work done because they've noticed some free time. We're also noticing some of the venues in our area that are not able to accommodate multiple weddings on a weekend and not able to accommodate those reschedules. Some of our venues in the area have already completely canceled the next 2 or 3 months worth of weddings as well. And one actually completely canceled everything, did not even offer a way to reschedule. So as another venue in town, we're actively booking some of those. And when I book brides here at the venue, we're handing them a packet and I'm including as much information on vendors as I can. I am first and foremost stressing that they try and, if they had vendors originally booked, that they look to rescheduling those first and foremost, but then wanting to provide them with as much information to make that decision easier for them. So again, although you may not be booking weddings right now during this time, for the future, new weddings at least, venues are. And this is a booking time for some of those brides. So it's definitely a time to reach out to your other vendors in the industry and see how you can help out for there. So.
And it's a good idea as well to let them know that like 2021 is going to be busy as hell. So like I've been telling people, hey, look, if you want this date, like it's been frustrating a little bit to me because I've had 2 or 3 brides move to dates and then had on wedding inquiries the following week for those dates, who were pretty keen to book them. And so that's been a little bit frustrating. So I really have been stressed to people, not necessarily trying to put people under pressure, but just telling the truth. Like these dates are going fast. If you want to get next year, you really got to get on this. And that's been working pretty good. And then also like for me as well, I've had a couple of bookings from people who were having destination weddings who now can't have those destination weddings. So, maybe some content around that or just, sort of letting people know, hey, if you're planning to get married in Italy and that can't happen anymore, I don't know, like just offering to kind of help in that way, I think is another kind of route.
Definitely. So I guess, is there any other consensus in here on how you're handling some of these reschedules and some of the kind of cancellations in particular? It seems like we've had kind of a split down the line right now of some are offering to fully refund if able, some are keeping some of those reservation fees. And I do fully agree that it is kind of a personal decision that you have to make as a company, and knowing your own finances and knowing what you're able to do. Unfortunately, there are going to be some people who don't agree with it, and then there's going to be some that are fully understanding. I think in the end, everyone's going to come out okay, and there's going to be quite a few that are going to be understanding of that and knowing that we can't afford to bankrupt ourselves and everything, being 100% philanthropic with this. I know that's something that we're looking at since our venue is a nonprofit. We I mean, we don't have those profits to be able to fall back on here, so we're kind of having to restrict that a little bit. Thankfully, we've not had to cancel anything. We've been able to reschedule though. So
yeah, I agree. We're in the same place. We have not had to, but if we did, we just made a decision to do that. However, I'll do my little preach thing, and just because, like, for those, and I work with a lot of studios, and I know a lot of studios that are really hurting and in a bad position because of this. But, you know, one of the first things we learned when we opened our business is when you take a retainer or you take a payment, to put it in a separate account and do not touch it until that work is produced and ready to deliver, because you just never know what could happen. And, you know, so going forward, I hope that we all adopt better financial practices as an industry about this, because, you know, I fully understand the stress of it all. I mean, I've done this for 26 years and I get it. Through 9/11, through 2008, the recession, you know, we've been through a lot of things, nothing like this, of course. And, but, you know, hopefully you'll adopt better financial practices, you know, going forward on that. But I agree. It's just such a personal decision. I don't feel comfortable commenting either way about it. I know how we feel, and you have to do what's right for your business. But something that Donald said, I think, is really cool. And one of my first webinars I hopped on was actually with a lot of wedding vendors with the group called Engage. And one of the first things that I was told was, when you're repositioning or postponing or rescheduling, try not to book Saturdays. Like, do whatever you can, because we can, especially those that do a lot of weddings, you count on those Saturdays, and you count on that, and you count that into your income. So either you have to make up for those lost incomes for those Saturdays you book for reschedules versus being able to book new ones, or not. So that's why we immediately started the Wedding Wednesdays, or, you know, what have you, because I know I only have so many Saturdays. And if new business comes along, I don't want to give it to something I was counting on this year for next year. So, you know, be creative with that when you're talking. And like everybody said, involving your other wedding partners is going to help fortify that, because my main reception venues and coordinators that I work with, I immediately said, okay, guys, we need to like push Wednesdays, because we only have so many Saturdays, especially for them, because they count on weddings a lot more than I do. So, you know, be creative and try to start that initiative, because it's really helped.
And yeah, like, I mean, in the UK and Ireland, I don't know if you agree, Brian and Jeff, but like, I think the retainers are normally less than people charge in the States. Would that be fair, Brian and Jeff? Like, I know in the States, a lot of people pay, it's like 50%.
I would agree there with you, Donal, yeah.
Yeah, so it tends to be a lot lower. And then from my perspective, like, I paid VAT and tax on that retainer that came in, had meetings with people and all that sort of stuff. So I think whatever you decide, it's obviously up to yourself, but I think you have to be firm too, because people will try to bully you. And I think that's why like being proactive and saying, look, we can work this out. I can help you. I want to move your balance. I want to help you out with this. Let's find a date that works. And, you know, if we're not able to do that, for me, it's usually a pretty small, I mean, it's not a massive amount of money, but I definitely think that people should stay firm with whatever they decide, because, you know, we haven't created this situation either. And, you know, we're doing what we can to help people. And, you know, that's that really.
Stay firm and consistent. Wouldn't you agree? Like, don't,
yeah, right on.
You know, like, oh, that was a really good wedding, so I'm going to give them a little pass, but not this one. I promise you, your market's not big enough to recover from that. You need to be consistent across the board, make a decision and stick with it either way that you know, feel good about, because that's what's important.
I think one way is to obviously sympathize with somebody, you know, sympathize, you understand how they feel, but then you put it back over to them to say, you know, you've got to appreciate that I too am running the business. I have no income coming in. And I think one thing I learned from a very good barrister friend, commercial barrister friend of mine, back in 2008 when we had the crash, is that I redid all my booking forms, and we didn't call it a deposit. It was called a booking fee, because and from a legal point of view, that is a non-refundable booking fee. But I would say we take that. You know, people are so keen to just say, "Oh, well, I'll slag you off on Facebook. I'll jump on, you know," and that they can have you over a barrel on that 1-star review, can't they? So I think you've got to have that little bit of flexibility to listen to them, understand them, and then say, "Well, I tell you what, I can't give you a refund, but I can give you a voucher for some family photography, that might actually work. They might just want something back, because if you tell them, from a legal point of view, you're entitled to that money back, and I'm running a business, and I'm not getting any income in. So I think, it's talking to them, understanding them, and trying to sympathize with them as well, and say, yes, I understand, but however, you've got to understand my viewpoint as well.
Yeah, that helps protect you, obviously, Jeff. But it also is that giving back to your customer. It's not a case of sorry, end of. It's giving back to your customer. And I also think one of the things when lockdown is over, I've been learning quite a number of things from these think tank things, and one thing that was said was, remember your value. Don't say, here's our lockdown sale, or here's our or whatever. Is when you get to the middle of that ladder, and you jump to the bottom step to get back into, we'll take 50% off our weddings, etc. Don't look desperate. You have value. You still are the quality photographer that you always were, and you're still the professional company that you always were, and that has value. Do not minimize that, because once you're down there, it's quite a long way back.
Yeah, that is such a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, because we all learned that. Well, a lot of us learned that after a lot of businesses that didn't survive after the recession is exactly that. They dipped down. They went to a place where it's hard to rebound from. And I can't speak for any place, but where I am, there are so many people so ready to spend money, so ready, because they're sitting at home, yes, but they're not spending any money, and they're still getting their full salary. They're getting benefits. All of our medical people, thank you for them, all the frontliners, but they're making lots of overtime and lots of money and not able to do anything because they can't. That's all they're doing is working, and they're in stay in place. So there will be a lot of money to be spent, after this. One other thing I was going to say, not to discount, but something that we've done is the group of us that love to work together, the group of like-minded wedding vendors, is we've collectively come together in any new business that is booking with us. We collectively kind of, if you spend, essentially it's if you book these vendors and they're getting some bonuses. So maybe, for example, if you book us and this venue and this planner, then we're going to give them maybe a complimentary engagement session. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just little things we can give right now that's adding value, not taking away from what we charge and what we do. But we're kind of coming up with little things like that to give people an incentive to go ahead and spend right now, and to retain our services right now for new business.
I think like one thing that's going to come out of this after as well is people are going to start buying wedding insurance because one of the things that I said, if people start getting ratty with me, is I just say to them, hey, you may be able to claim this back off your wedding insurance. And maybe they kind of think, oops, I probably should have had wedding insurance, because I have had somebody who had to reschedule their date, and their wedding insurance, I think, has paid for like most of their wedding.
Oh, really? See, over here, pandemics are not covered under any of that insurance.
I think it depends who you're insured with.
Yeah, travel insurance, wedding insurance, nothing in the U.S. covered a pandemic. Yeah. Which stinks, but I agree with you. Event insurance is important. I mean, we recommend that to our clients all the time. As a matter of fact, it's one of the services we recommend in our client information folder for vendors, because it is normally
as father of the bride, I was straight in there with wedding insurance. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the unfortunate things that we're not able to get here in the States. I forget what it was. I guess it was a couple of years ago that insurance companies lobbied Congress to be able to remove that from their payouts and everything, because I know we were looking at getting that on my end for a bridal show that I'm hosting in July, because we're still optimistic that we might be able to have the bridal show. We're just unsure as to what's going to happen, and I don't want to be out all that money on my own pocket for marketing the show ahead of time if we're not going to be able to have it. So who knows what will come.
Jamie's a mess. I don't know what's going on with Jamie's camera. He's just all over the place.
It's been wonderful watching your face, Mary.
I mean, it's terrible. It's awful.
This is 36 years of photography experience. He knows how to shoot.
Yeah, he's supposedly so experienced, and he doesn't know how to use a phone to do a Zoom call for sure. I'm just like, what is he doing?
This is a bit controversial, by the way, and I totally know that people are like stressed and brides are stressed out when they're in conflict. But if somebody is like really horrible to you during this whole process, I honestly just think, thank God I'm not doing that wedding.
100%.
And I know that sounds kind of awful, but I just kind of, if somebody's been really horrible, I'm just like, thank you. I am not doing that wedding,
I agree. I mean, and that's kind of, haven't y'all learned that over the years though? Like, you get that bride and they haven't even retained your services yet, and they're a pain in your side. And I learned early on, do not take those weddings, because that is a miserable long day. If you have to be with that person, a miserable long day.
Yeah, definitely some blessings in disguise coming out with some of these, so, for sure.
But at least we can laugh about it.
Yeah. The money doesn't matter.
Hey, Ronan.
Hi,
Welcome
guys.
back, Ronan.
How are you?
Doing good.
I see Jamie's having a few issues with his phone, but I'm sure he'll work it out. We'll get him back at some stage.
Good gosh.
So I just want to thank you guys. So I just summarized what I heard. So I heard about how can we create more income right now or help our cash flow. So some of the points were that some of the brides are happy to pay. I think that was Brian's, so if you've got a good relationship with them, they'll be happy to postpone the date and still pay now because they have put the money put aside. Mary and Jamie are doing curating of there's Jamie again.
Jamie, now you're sideways.
Hi, Jamie.
My phone does not like Zoom app.
That's all right.
Fine, but for some reason, this is crazy.
Okay, well, just hang up. We're good.
So Mary and Jamie are good.
Hang up so we can talk about you.
You put a smile on my face. So Mary and
I swear
Jamie,
to God, I know how to work a camera. Swear to God.
we know that. We've seen your photography. So
It's
Jamie,
highly
Mary,
doubtful at this point.
So Jamie and Mary are curating images, offering a curating service to their clients. Because I even know here, like, we're getting out old photos and we're cleaning them out and scanning them. And I'd love somebody to say, I'll sort that for you and create a beautiful display. Donal said, think about courses. The search for training right now is going through the roof. So there might be a course that you can create on photography skills that you might be able to sell. Dan was talking about photo retouching. And I think Brian was talking about that as well, offer a photo retouching service. Jeff was talking about product photography, and then Mary brought that into the idea of, there goes Jamie again, partnering with your venue. Jamie, you're just trying to put me off, aren't you? How am I supposed to remember all this?
Zoom doesn't work the same on a phone as it does on a tablet. A computer. The Zoom
you need a cat or something to walk by, and then you can just blame it on the cat.
That's it. So
he's got his name now as Jeff Brown, so everybody else. Yeah,
this is Jeff. Poor Jeff.
Jeff doesn't know how to use.
Sorry,
it.
Jeff.
I'm the real Jeff Brown.
I know, yeah. The real Jeff Brown, stand up. Oh my gosh.
So Mary was talking about the venues and reaching out to venues for partnership, and Dan was saying how important is a venue that very few of his, there he goes again, then he's back again. So Dan was talking about as a venue, he's a unique perspective, and that, he's only had one partner who's actually reached out. Mary was talking about, and I think Jeff talked about this too, about your venues are closed, but you can still go and offer photography there so that, because they're going to have to bounce out of this like we are. So offer to go in there and do some photography shoots. I think it was it Donal was talking about, or no, it was Jeff, I think, who are your vendor partners and can you do something for them? So if you've got a boutique that's at the same level as you, go in there and do some shoots now for them of their product that they can put it on Facebook, because they're trying to stay front of mind with their clients as well. What else do we have? So I think my favorite one of them all was diary planning. So yeah, we've got to find other dates, but come up with creative ways to sell that hashtag Wednesday wedding. That was brilliant, Mary, but that doesn't surprise me, the marketeer you are. And that's wonderful, like reaching out then to other vendors that you partner with, and then just getting everyone talking about hashtag Wednesday weddings, you know. And then for your clients then who are having to postpone their wedding, reach out to them, you know, send them a bottle of champagne and say, we're thinking of you on this day. You know, they'll remember those little things, those connections. So thank you so much, guys. Wonderful sharing, wonderful knowledge. You're inspirational as always. Thank you so much for joining us in the think tank. And sorry to our viewers. I know Facebook got in a wobble at some stage during the thing, and it wasn't you, Jamie, that caused it. I'm sure it wasn't.
Are you sure?
But those who are joined us live, they stuck with us the whole way. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much, panelists. We appreciate you. And I think that's goodbye for today. Good morning,
now.
good evening, or good night. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Good. We'll see
Thanks,
ya.
y'all.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.